morning, everyone. It's really exciting to be here for the 10th year. We've been coming to JP Morgan every year for a long period of time. I'm sure all of you as well. And the streets seem nicer this year. More smiling faces following a very good year we had in the life sciences. And for us at Fremont, it really is it was a great year, but it really is wonderful to have so many registered for our event and so many of you coming over here. For those of you who don't know who Fremont is, we're a consulting firm. We've been around for the past 15 years, and we work with our clients to help them secure as much money as possible from non-dilutive sources. We work with academics, but mainly we work with the industry, with companies, anywhere from very small startups to the very largest. And I think our mission really is to try and turn non-dilutive funding in general into a strategic source of funding for our clients, for companies in general. Some see it as a one-time thing, and for those, we usually say if you don't buy a lottery ticket, there's no way you're going to buy it. You're going to win. But even those who do buy a lottery ticket every once in a while, I don't think non-dilutive funding is the lottery. I think it is a strategic source of funding. I think it can be turned into one. It can support companies dramatically and turn them around. And the value of a dollar coming from NIH or from the Department of Defense is far greater than the value of a dollar coming from an investor in many ways. And this is really the point of my very short talk. Last year, as I said, was a really wonderful year for us. We were able to help our clients win just over $100 million in non-dilutive funding. And we're looking forward to 2015 to be an even better one. Before I start, again, special thanks to representatives from NINDS and from NIAID. Great privilege to have you guys here. And I think it really shows the great interest the industry has in non-dilutive funding and the great interest NIH institutes, specifically in this case NINDS and NIAID, have in the industry. And on this relationship and linkage, I think that's where we live and where we want to try and be and make it a stronger and more beneficial process for everyone. So just looking back into 2014 briefly, as we all know, it was a great year. Record numbers with IPOs, with M&As. Private funding went up dramatically from VCs. FDA approving more drugs than in the past 18 years. And from non-dilutive funding perspective as well. A wonderful, wonderful year with billions of dollars awarded to companies from NIH, from DoD, private foundations, and all. And I think the linkage between non-dilutive funding support and the ability to raise money from private funding from VCs, from angels and such, as well as from the public markets, is very clear. The value of a dollar, as I said earlier, coming from NIH or from the Department of Defense is great. You don't only get the dollar, and you don't pay with shares of your company, hence non-dilutive, but you also are able to gain scientific support for your thoughts, for your ideas, a seal of approval that is well received with investors, and ultimately, as this study by the Milken Institute has shown, a dollar coming from NIH, DoD, and such is worth $8.38 in a relatively short run of 8 years. And this is an important fact that companies must remember. I'm not trying to say don't go for VCs or any other sources of funding. I am saying that this is a huge source of funding, a critical one, and one that most companies we know, small and large, can't afford to overlook. Really, you need to look into that strategically, systematically, and make the most of your potential to get funding from these sources of funding. Also, if you look into this great rise in number of FDA approvals, so the same study has shown that 50% historically, 50% of FDA-approved drugs have received at one point or another funding from the government. Going back to the investors, getting the right ROI, making sure that you're investing in a company that you will be able to win from, this is a great indication. An investor wants you to go and get money, A, because the value of his investment will go up and will be greater, and B, because it will give him a great indication into the fact that his chances of getting a good ROI are so much better. Now, when you look into 2015, we think that the markets will be great and private funding will keep flowing into the industry, but probably will look into the later stage companies with shorter ROIs, and still for companies in the seed to phase 1 stage, it will be a difficult year as always, really. And I think that the main source of funding available to support these gaps, to support these valleys of death, multiple valleys of death, are non-dilutive funding. This is a great source. NIH budget went up a little bit. BARDA just got their 5-year budget approved. DoD had published their CDMRP program. I'll touch into all these specifics later in my short presentation. The path, the timeline, the milestones are all there, and you need to get yourselves aware and take all of those into account as you plan for your next few years strategically. When you look into a company and how they try to manage their investors and investments and raise money, the strong companies, small companies, but the stronger ones that will advance and create value and get to better M&A position, etc., are those who will have a balanced campaign, who will be able to attract angels at first and VC funding, who will be able to bring in money from different sources, but those who will be able to also get funding from non-dilutive sources through collaborations with academic partners, through collaborations with other companies, through direct approach to NIH, DoD, etc., private foundations as well, and create a better value for their company. And then also, if you look into the cost of how much it will cost to go through a process, a campaign of raising money from non-dilutive sources compared to how much it will cost to raise money from a VC. We all been running around here presenting to different investors. Ultimately, both in terms of the time investment and the term in money investment, it will be cheaper. Of course, the value at the end, as I've mentioned earlier, is far greater than the $1 you'll get from a VC. And so, again, my point, I hope I've made it clear, is very simple. Non-dilutive funding is a strategic, huge, important source of funding that is available. It's hard to get through there. It's hard to identify the right funding opportunity. It's hard to get a success, to find the success rates and get your project funded. But if you're able to find the right funding opportunity, and if you take a systematic approach, submit multiple applications to the right place, know where you're going, you will be successful, and you'll be able to take advantage of these sources of funding. 3 examples. 2 of them are clients. See if you guess which one is not. Cubist Pharmaceuticals is a great company, and we got to know them probably about 4 years ago, I think. We've been working with them. They've submitted applications. They've won applications. But I think one of the key turnarounds for Cubist was to acquire Trius and Optimer, 2 other clients of ours. Both were extremely successful in getting non-dilutive funding while they existed on their own, and supported dramatically the Cubist pipeline. I'm not suggesting that their work with non-dilutive funding has led to the Merck acquisition. I am suggesting that it had contributed dramatically to the value of the company and ultimately to the FDA approval earlier in the year and to the Merck acquisition just, I think, about a month ago. But Cubist is a big company for small companies, for startups, and it's a mid-sized company if you look into the entire market. When you look into NanoMR, and Megan, NanoMR's VP of Business Development, will be on our panel later today, and I think you all need to listen to her presentation. It really is an interesting one. NanoMR is a small company. It's a startup, bootstrap, fighting through the process. We're able to raise money through 2 rounds of VC funding back in 2008, 2011. But we're in the point where literally the value of death almost killed them. it was a make or break position in 2012, 2013. And through very, very hard work, finding the right funding opportunity and being able to help them win $21 million from BARDA back in September, I think. Two things had happened. First of all, they got a lot of money, which is great. 21 million is a lot of money. But also, it raised interest in the market to non-OMR and created a major shift, a major growth in their value for potential collaborators and partners. And I think this is probably the most interesting part. The 21 million they received from, or they are receiving from BARDA, is making a huge difference to their future. And then this last case study, I think we all know the importance of when money runs out and you cannot complete your project. So this is an important lesson, I think, to be learned. So all in all, every year, non-dilutive funding supports the industry. Well, supports life sciences research, not just the industry, in about $50 billion through NIH, through other HHS agencies like BARDA, FDA, CDC, NSF, through the Department of Defense and private foundations. NIH budget, as I've mentioned earlier, went up just a little bit for the year 2015 to $30.36 billion from, I think it was 29.4 last year. And the breakdown is not crucial. I think what it is important to know is that the majority of the NIH budget goes to support research and development projects through different mechanisms, R01, R21s, SBIRs, research contracts, U awards that we've all learned a lot about earlier today. This is a huge pocket of money. And of course, NIH is built from 27 different institutes, all focusing either on a different target or on a specific population, like the Aging Institute or Child Health Development, or on technology development, like NIBIB, National Institute for Bioimaging and Bioengineering. And many times, a project could fit into more than a single potential institute or pocket of money. So when one is looking to understand where are the opportunities that could assist them, that could present good sources of funding to support their R&D efforts, you must look into the entire variety of funding opportunities available. This is just, I'm not sure if it's easy to see, but this is a split of the NIH budget 2014, looking into different categories. The left-hand bar, the larger one, is the clinical research one. But basically, every field of research that is health-related is covered. And so the question will never be, is there money to support what you do on an R&D effort, life science related? The question would be, what is the best available funding source relating to your project? Finding that right one is the crucial issue. Some focus into the 2015 budgets and changes we've seen in that budget. So I think the addition of almost, $28.6 million into Alzheimer's research through NIA represents exactly the point I was trying to make earlier. NIA is National Institute for Aging. Of course, NINDS is the main agency that focusing, or institute that is focusing on Alzheimer's as well as any other CNS-related targets, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about it later. But the fact that the Aging Institute is receiving money looking into Alzheimer's represents the variety of pockets of money that could be relevant for a project, in this case, focusing on Alzheimer's disease. In addition, $12.6 million received for Pediatric Research Initiative. Ebola, of course, made the news this year, and while DITRA, BARDA, and NIAID are all looking into that, NIH had received $238 million additional funding looking into Ebola. And I think, in addition, the BRAIN initiative receiving additional funding is very important as well. These are just some highlights from this year's budget. I think the bottom line of what I'm trying to say relating to that is that through the different mechanisms of funding at NIH, pretty much the entire spectrum, entire process of research and development in the life sciences, be it medical devices or technology development or, of course, drug and diagnostics, etc., is covered through earlier stage, exploratory type research, basic research, animal work, translational research, and into the clinic. Between NIH and DoD and BARDA and DITRA and the private foundations and other sources, there's a lot of money out there spreading across the entire spectrum of research and development activities relevant for you. A few words on the SBIR STTR program. Many people within the industry know SBIR and STTR, and of course, a reminder, this is not the only program available for companies, although many people, there's a great misperception as far as that is concerned. SBIR and STTR is a good and important program. By far not the only one or the biggest one relevant for companies that is available. So I urge those who are eligible to look into SBIR, but definitely look beyond SBIR as well to maximize your potential. A note on that is the change in deadlines for the SBIRs. The August and December deadlines have been pushed to September and January. So that's just something to remember. And it's a very, very welcome change. I think it will shorten the review process and we'll get results somewhat faster, which is always great. But as mentioned earlier, it's not just SBIRs that are available. Many other sources of funding within NIH are available through, sometimes an R01 or an R21 can be awarded to a company. Definitely research contracts can be awarded to companies. U awards, as was discussed earlier and will be discussed later today as well. It's not just the SBIRs. That's really the bottom line here. Not just the SBIRs. When you look into the NIH review process and in general a review process, I think what's important to remember when you submit an application is that ultimately it's not a pure scientific discussion. It's more of a risk evaluation. Yes, the project needs to be perfect scientifically, of course. But with the success rates as they are, not great. The question is never only is it great science. It's also whether you can complete the project you're suggesting, as innovative and significant as it may be. Do you have the resources? Do you have the planning capacity, the management capacities, and the capabilities, scientific capabilities, to actually complete the work that you're suggesting within the time frame and the financial framework you're presenting? And being able to present a complete application, looking into all aspects of the project is crucial, as well as taking into account the specific interests and focus and policies of the specific pocket of money you're looking into, the agencies you're looking to get money from. You must incorporate all of that into the application to make sure it is successful. Moving on to other sources of funding. So unlike NIH, it has very specific, very clear systematic process with deadlines that are all clear, the February, June, October cycles for the R01s, R21s and such, the April, September, and January now cycles for the SBIR, STTRs, and then for the in-between deadlines for the different RFPs, RFAs, and such. At DoD and BARDA, most of the awards will work on a different system. You submit a pre-proposal first, and then if they like it, they will call you to submit the full proposal. So it's kind of a three-step process. First the pre-proposal, then the full proposal, then if accepted, you go into the actual negotiations on the terms of the award. So it's a somewhat longer process usually, although sometimes they do, they go through it very, very, very quickly. The big news on BARDA, and BARDA, for those who don't know, is the HHS agency looking into medical countermeasures addressing chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear, as well as threats, as well as pandemics, flus, etc. BARDA is focusing on later stage research, clinical stage research, with the aim of ultimately of procurement. They want to develop the project all the way through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So potentially it could be stockpiled to protect the population. The good news on BARDA, they've just got their budget approved for another 5 years. So that's really wonderful news. And I must say they're one of the more open-minded and accepting agencies within the government system. Very welcoming in terms of discussions, looking into projects, giving you some feedback prior to submission, and a plan on how can you get there best possible way to maximize your chances to win. So there are a great bunch of people there. At DoD, four main programs. DARPA, which is really probably one of the most interesting agencies. You know, they're not only life science oriented, of course. They're looking into a great variety of technology-oriented solutions, very early stage, very innovative. Innovation really is key word at DARPA. But also they look into life sciences as well as others. And if you have a great idea, could be very early stage and definitely great innovation, I think DARPA may be the right place for you. DTRA is to a great extent the DoD equivalent of BARDA, although they do go into earlier stage and preclinical work as well. And they are looking to support research and development, including early stage as well as late stage clinical research, looking into the safeguard of the U.S., its allies, from weapons of mass destruction. And of course, the U.S. Army programs provide solutions for battlefield-related or Army-related type research and development, medical research and development projects. In addition, I think one of the most interesting programs within the DoD is the CDMRP. And again, they just got their budget for 2015 approved, $771.4 million. And this is just a brief, there are additional fields of research covered by the CDMRP. And please note, these are not military oriented in any sort of way. Breast cancer, prostate cancer, vision, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc. A great source of money that many people, many companies, many researchers in academia are not aware of for non-military medical research and development activities. Lastly, a few words on the private foundations. There are so many of them, I definitely cannot list them all. I think what's important to remember as far as the private foundations are concerned, they're a great source and link into the population it has. I mean, if you're focusing on a specific population, Parkinson's or whatever it may be, with Michael J. Fox or JDRF, juvenile diabetes, etc., being in touch with these foundations is a crucial and important, should be part of your strategic plan. They have funding, most times not as much as the government, and also one must take into account they are not necessarily, or necessarily they will not be, following the regulation, federal regulation, as far as non-dilutive funding is concerned. So some of them may ask for royalty payments, some of them may ask for matching funds, some of them may ask for future payments or IP rights, which does not mean necessarily don't go there or don't talk to them, but definitely does mean when you talk to them, look into the fine prints and be aware of what's out there and what are their requirements. So to try and start to sum up our point of view, looking into 2015 and looking into non-dilutive funding as a strategic source of funding for our clients, I think and for the industry at large, I think non-dilutive funding must be part of your strategic decision-making process as companies in this industry. It is a huge source of funding that is available. It is not easy to get the money and not easy to identify the right funding opportunity, but it's definitely, if you take a systematic and strategic and professional approach to it, it's definitely possible. You must be able to identify the goals and interests of this funding sources, just like you would do with any other investor. You must present to them their relating to their interests and policies, so they want to give you the money, and you must create a presentation that is strong enough to be able to relate to and trust you in terms of giving you significant amounts of money to support your work. But ultimately, their dollar is worth a lot more than a dollar. We strongly believe, as I said, that non-dilutive funding is one of the key sources of funding for this industry. We've seen it happening with the examples I gave earlier and with many others, how this drives a company forward, how this changes investors' view of a company and leads to investment, leads to IPOs, M&As, and leads to better valuations, which is probably the most important thing. Just a few more words on us and how we work. We have 40 full-time employees. You've met two of them earlier today, Joel and Guy, who lead our professional department. We have senior advisors like Joel and Guy, analysts, managers, and writers, and we help our clients throughout the process from advice on the most senior and strategic level through understanding your strategy as far as R&D is concerned, your plans for the future, 2-3 years to the future, identification of different funding opportunities available and relevant for you so you can incorporate that into your long-term planning and be able to create a multi-submission strategy, submit multiple applications, and maximize your chances for success. Of course, we help our clients write the applications to make sure the presentation is right and complete. And ultimately help our clients achieve better success rates and good money. So I think these were my main points, and I thank you for your time. I think you have we have a great day ahead of us, and again, thank you very much.